Ah, yes, it's a Monday morning. A little snow, a little rain, a little freezing rain, but not too worried. Get out the Bermuda shorts. It's going to be 53 tomorrow. It's Weber on Sports on a Monday, January 28th, as my good friend Alan Brignall returns after several months away. It's always good to have Alan back in the studio. Alan, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Harold. Thanks for having me.
It's always good to have you. We got a bevy of topics to talk about. Get your opinions on. Of course, Alan, without too much of a delay, Alan used to be obviously a sports reporter. Then he was the sports director of the Finger Lakes Times for many, many years. I met Alan way back when. We won't tell you exactly the year that was, but he was writing his articles for the paper, and I was broadcasting along with Dave Barnick and Jack DiPaolo on the Sports Trail. But then Alan got a promotion some time ago, and now you're the news editor of the Finger Lakes Times.
Yeah, that's right. I've been in that position for roughly a year and a half, getting close to 2 years now.
It's hard to look at you and not think of you as a sports guy. So that's why you're here, and we look forward to having your comments on several topics. But good morning, everybody. Hope you're having a good weekend. Hope you're enjoying this Super Monday, by the way. We need to remind you, this is Super Monday, as Alan and myself and Jimmy Senecropi, the owner and producer of this show, will remind us that today's Super Monday, tomorrow's Super Tuesday, then we go right through the week. And, of course, if you're bored with pregame shows, we'll talk about that. Of course, we'll get Alan's views on the 49ers-Ravens coming up Sunday. The thing that turns me off, the pregame starts on Sunday at 9 o'clock in the morning. Kickoff doesn't take place, Alan, as you know, until 6:20. So what's that, 9.5 hours of pregame? Enough already. But they're going to build it up. CBS has the telecast this year from New Orleans down there in Louisiana. So we'll get into that. But it's good to have Alan alongside on a kind of a miserable morning. But it's going to get better. It's supposed to rain this afternoon, so that's good news. And, again, the temperatures will be rising big time. And then only for a day or two, because next weekend they're saying it's going to be in the 20s. Typical February weather in the Finger Lakes. Okay, Al, let's good to have you with us. Let's start off our show by saying we hope that everybody enjoys our program this morning, and we want to throw some names out there, some topics, to get Alan's views on it. Lance Armstrong, let's start off with that, Alan. Of course, I don't know about you. I've never been a big cycling fan. However, I did make an exception. For 7 years, I watched the Tour de France because I was amazed that this guy could win year after year after year. And I said to my wife, Mary, she says, "You don't watch cycling?" I said, "Yeah, but I like to watch them in the Swiss Alps and going up and down these hills and the amazing pain that these cyclists go through." Well, I was amazed that win after win. I thought, my God, this guy is inhuman. Well, we all know now, Alan, that he was. So what's your take on this? Of course, now he's on the famous Oprah Winfrey show, and it was hard to find her network. She's on like channel 460 or something. But what's your take on this? I'm certainly turned off by Lance Armstrong because I spent 7 years watching it. What's your take on Lance Armstrong? Any redeemable factors involved in this guy?
Well, his Live Strong Foundation is certainly, it's a charitable aftermath of his career. It's a good thing that he created, that no matter how tainted his accomplishments are, which they obviously are very tainted now, something good came out of it is the best way to say it. You know, you always wondered about Armstrong because he denied so adamantly that he ever cheated. The guy certainly deserved the benefit of the doubt given his battle with cancer, where he'd gone in his life. But if you follow cycling, and I really don't follow it too closely, but the last two Tour de France's were significantly worse than they had been in previous years, which automatically raised red flags that indeed not only had he been doping, a lot of other guys had. And then everything, all the cards, the house of cards comes down, and his name gets dragged through the mud. And you know what? That's his problem. Yeah, he created the situation he's in now, and how he's going to end up getting out of it, I don't know. But obviously, his achievements are tainted as they should be. He cheated, along with a lot of other guys that ride bicycles. And there's certainly no surprise here. A lot of people are going to be suing him for several millions and millions of dollars, including the United States government, who, of course, as you know, sponsored the U.S. Postal Service, and that was multi-million dollars over several years. And the fact that he won these with the announcement now that he was doping, it'll be interesting to see. He must have a team of lawyers ready to defend. I'm certainly thinking he's got some money, but I don't know how long he's going to hold on to that funds because a lot of people are going to go after him, and I guess rightly so. Yeah, I imagine a lot of litigation my guess would be settled out of court through payments or whatever. He's got a newspaper, the London Times, is going to try and recoup the $500,000 that they had to pay him. It's an ugly situation, and it's certainly not good for cycling, a sport that stars for attention in this country as it is.
Alan Brignall is our guest this morning for the full hour, where, of course, this is Weber on Sports on a lousy Monday morning weather-wise, but it's good to have Alan in the studio. Of course, he's the news editor of the Finger Lakes Times, a longtime friend of yours truly. We go back way back when, and we're here to talk about many topics, and certainly hopefully you are interested in some of the comments Alan has to make. Let's go now to the world of baseball, the Hall of Fame. You know, I've always believed, I've been in Cooperstown, as you know, and I'm sure you've been there, Alan. I've often wondered when I was there were some shady characters that are enshrined in the Hall of Fame. There's no doubt that if you were to do a story, you could pick up some possible, robbers and probably rapists and some other people that are enshrined that are on the walls adorning the Hall of Fame. The baseball writers a few weeks ago made the decision, which kind of irked me relative to the fact they admitted zero. Nobody got in this year. And I'm of the opinion, and I don't know if you agree or disagree, that the likes of, the McGuires, the Sosas, the Bonds, the Clemens, let's say for argument purposes that they did take some performance enhancement drugs. I guess where I'm coming from, I'm not condoning their styles, but there was no rules against it back then. I guess I'm curious, if you were a baseball writer, would you take 25% of their stats away and say, okay, we're going to punish them by 25%, but would that still not give them the stats to get in? Do you think there's any light at the end of the tunnel for any of these characters ever to get in? Your feeling is that they should be excluded for life based on what we know now?
My standard for guys like that is, and I've said this to many people, is you look at a guy like Bonds.
Right.
Was he a Hall of Famer before he supposedly started juicing?
Exactly.
You could argue he was.
Sure.
Same thing with Clemens.
Exactly.
His numbers were probably good enough to be a Hall of Famer before he supposedly started juicing, which is when he went to Toronto.
Exactly.
Is basically because his last couple of years in Boston, his last 4 years in Boston, he was a .500 pitcher.
Right.
He goes to Toronto. He's in his 30s now, and all of a sudden he's a dominant pitcher the rest of his career. So if you draw the timeline as to when these guys supposedly started juicing, Clemens and Bonds, in my opinion, were Hall of Fame material before they started cheating. Of course, it's never been proven they've cheated, obviously.
Exactly.
But given everything that's happened with the Armstrong thing, you got to think it's a matter of time before the dots are connected, and we know for sure it happened.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, that's how you judge it. Now, McGuire, I don't know. Again, he would have hit a lot of home runs if he'd never juiced.
Exactly.
How many is anybody's guess. He's not as certain a Hall of Famer, in my opinion, with that cloud of uncertainty over his career. The other two, Bonds and Clemens, if I'm a writer, I'm looking at what they did before they started cheating. And Bonds especially, I think, was a Hall of Famer before. Now, what he did after, it's hard to forget it. It's hard to ignore it. But it was part of baseball's culture at the time. And that, I think eventually these guys will be in the Hall of Fame. When exactly that'll happen, I don't know. It's not going to happen in the near future.
Let's talk about a guy that you admire growing up, I'm sure, like I did, Pete Rose. We have forgiven presidents. We have forgiven Bill Clinton. We have forgiven murderers that get out of jail after 15 or 20 years, believe it or not. The families that killed individuals of their family, they've even forgiven them. I don't lose sight of the fact I watched him in Geneva way back when. I followed his career. I thought he was one of the most fiercest, most competitive players that I had ever seen. I loved his game style. He played hard every day. And he put some stats together that are second to none. We all know that he gambled on baseball and probably other sports as well. The crux of the matter came where, as you know, the punishment got severe when he gambled on his own team that he managed. That was the coup de grace, they say. And they punished him, and they basically said that, he's yesterday's newspaper, using your business as an idea. I guess I don't know how many years of punishment are we going to give this guy. I mean, to me, it's been, 15, 18 years or something like that, a long time that Pete Rose has been not even considered to be voted on by the Veterans Committee that votes in the guys that are that long out. I guess we are a forgiving nation. We do it all the time. We forgive people who make heinous decisions. When do you believe that Pete Rose should be forgiven? Do you think that he should at least be considered for the vote by the Veterans Committee, which right now he's not? I just think that, okay, he screwed up, and then he gambled on his own team when he was the manager of the Reds, and that was really the bad thing he did. Do you think there's any hope in our lifetime that we'll see Pete Rose at least given? Maybe we need a new commissioner. You're going to go there maybe with Bud Selig.
That's exactly where I was going to go.
My whole point is, do you think we're ever going to get this guy a chance to get voted on? I think punishment of 17 to 20 years might be an overkill to me personally. And I'm not condoning gambling. And I'm not condoning if you're a coach listening to this show or watching this show that, it's okay to go gamble on your Division III basketball team. I'm not saying that. But how many years are we going to punish this kid for? He's not a kid anymore. My point is, Alan, don't you think it's time that we just give this guy a shot?
Not as long as Bud Selig's commissioner.
Yep.
It won't happen.
It's amazing.
I don't see Selig ever opening the door for that to happen.
It's
now,
amazing.
Whoever succeeds him, then we've got a new commissioner with new thoughts on the matter. What Pete Rose did is, it's not right.
I agree.
But you look at what he did on the baseball field during his career, which is what you're judged on to be in the Hall of Fame.
Phenomenal.
He should be in the Hall of Fame. Enough time has passed now where what he did should be forgiven. But again, as long as Bud Selig is the commissioner of baseball, it's not going to happen.
It is amazing. I just have always hoped and prayed that Pete would get a shot at getting inducted, because I felt if he hadn't gotten any trouble, he may have been one of the few that are unanimous first-round ballots.
Mm-hmm.
How do you not vote for this guy,
No, he might have had the highest percentage of any first ballot guy.
Well, one topic that I saw, I didn't see it, and I would never watch it. They play a football game. They call it the Pro Bowl, and I've always wanted to wonder, a sports guy like yourself, and I know Jimmy watches it quite closely too, watches sports. Roger Goodell made a statement last year after last year's ridiculous showing that he wanted that game to go away. You recall it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it didn't go away. It still got played. And I didn't see a second of it. I will never watch a second of that game because I don't know about you and Jimmy. When I was a kid, me and my two brothers on Thanksgiving morning would play with neighbors flag football before dinner on Thanksgiving. That was always a yearly tradition. And it reminds me of basically that. You bring all these super athletes, fly them all the way to Hawaii, spend a ton of money on it. I have no idea what the TV ratings is. Jimmy probably could figure that out. It's got to be 0.1. I don't know who would ever, Ellen, watch the Pro Bowl. Do you agree with that? Is that just a waste of TV time? Is there any reason to have a Pro Bowl?
Well, I have no interest in watching it, Harold.
Zero.
I haven't seen 1 second of the game, and
you and me are
I can't tell you when.
It's terrible.
However, they do put a point spread and an over-under on it in Vegas, so I'm sure there's some people watching the game along those lines.
It's amazing. I just can.
Yeah, it seems rather pointless.
So meaningless.
They don't, the story that's we have a little story in today's paper about it, saying that they're trying hard, save this game. Well, what do you expect the players to say? It's a free vacation for them.
Exactly, yeah.
And they don't have to play hard.
No.
They don't have to hit. It's not a real football game.
Oh, no, it just...
Maybe they should just take the pads off, take the helmets off, put flags on their hips, and play a flag football game. That might be more interesting, to be honest with you.
And as you know, the timing of the game is such the two best teams in the NFL don't play because they're getting ready for the Super Bowl. It's always curious. My curiosity's always found that amazing. They schedule a week for the Super Bowl.
Well, and I think that they moved it to that slot thinking it would gain more interest that way, and it really hasn't been the case.
Terrible. Well, we both agree on that. This is Weber on Sports on the Money. Let's take a break now. We got many more topics to talk about. We can talk about college basketball, get Alan's opinion on the parity of college basketball. This could be a year that one of 12 teams could win the March Madness. There's a lot of parity in the world of college basketball. If you don't believe me, just check with Mr. Louisville coach there. Number one a week ago, then 3 straight L's. We'll get to that and a whole lot more topics. We'll get Alan's take on San Fran and Baltimore as we rev up on a Super Monday. This is Weber on Sports. Let's hear from our great sponsors. Welcome back, everybody. This is Dog H. Weber with another edition of Weber on Sports on kind of a lousy Monday morning. It's good to have my friend Alan Brignall join us. It's been several months since his buddy, by the way, Mike Cotillo, the executive editor, we invited Mike to come down. I'm not sure he didn't want to come down because I wanted to pick on his Pittsburgh sports fan. And, of course, I understand he's a Viking fan as well. I didn't know that until recently. Yeah. Mike, of course, the executive editor of the Times, and he's got a lot on his plate to try to get ready to get a paper out today, and I'm sure he's got a lot of major decisions to make. So we hope to get Mike in here someday, and we're working on that. And we'd like to have both of them come down, obviously, but it's nice to have Alan show up today to be a part of this. I guess, Al, you and me, again, have a history of watching sports, and I guess there's nothing more, to me, more exciting than college basketball when you can look at 10 or 12 teams that literally, Alan, have a chance to win the title this year, unlike the Kentuckys of the world. There's a lot of great parity in the world of college basketball. You don't have to look any further than Louisville. They were on the top of the world a week or so ago. Pitino was number one in the country, then a loss. And your take on this, it's good for basketball fans, I trust.
Yeah, anytime you have a situation like this where I don't even know that you can limit 12 teams at this point.
Yep.
I think there could be as many as 20 teams.
Wow, could win it.
That have it. You look at a team like Butler.
Yep.
Not really highly thought of before the season, and now that we're into the season, they're obviously a very good team. Another team, Gonzaga, is from the, quote, mid-major conferences. Right. I've seen them play. They look good enough to take anybody down. Louisville, we thought that they were one of the top 5 teams in the country, and they may end up being that. But there's peaks and valleys to every college basketball season, and right now Louisville's obviously in a valley. It doesn't mean they're still championship material, in my opinion. They're just having a lull right now, and it's surprising because I really thought the Big East this year was Louisville, Syracuse, and a lot of mediocre teams behind them. Mm-hmm. Now all of a sudden it looks like the conference might not be as weak or as mediocre as we thought. Villanova's beaten both of them in succession. Syracuse, I don't think, we talk about 20 teams that could win it. Right now, Syracuse is a very good team, but a national championship team, I don't know. I just don't see it, and losing Sutherland didn't help. But they're certainly where they are at this point of the year, to me, has been a pleasant surprise. They had a few more question marks than usual, and they've only got 2 losses to this point. Jim's doing a good job there, again.
Allegations on Sutherland, supposedly, quote-unquote, according to the blogs in Syracuse, that Jim would be proud of me because I go in and check some of those blogs. There's a million different blog opportunities in Syracuse sports. Mm-hmm. Rumor has it that a tutor wrote half of his term paper. The NCAA sniffed it out and suspended him indefinitely. Don't know how long that suspension is going to last or whether that will turn into a see you later, alligator. You're not coming back. I don't know. I have my issue with the football program, of course, Marone, and we'll talk about him in a minute, getting an NFL job down the road, go to Western New York, Buffalo. But I look at Syracuse basketball. They certainly have some outstanding athletes, and as you know, and Jim knows, being a graduate there, they're one of the top 5 or 10 schools that get considered by all the elites in the country and around the world, basically. If you've got a lot of game and you play basketball at the highest level out of a high school or a junior college scenario, Syracuse is always on your list of consideration. And that's something that Boeheim, to his credit, has developed at Syracuse. Everybody wants to come play, not everybody, but most people want to consider to come to play for SU. They get a lot of television coverage. The Dome packs them in, 27, 30,000 people, whatever it holds their capacity. But you wonder, the loss of Sutherland, I don't think that's going to help as they go forward because it's going to get tougher and tougher.
It won't help. Yeah. He's a tremendous scorer. He's really turned into a fine offensive player, and his defense is underrated. Right. Very good defensive player also. And they play the zone defense, which, as we all know, when you play a zone, you generally don't rebound as well just because of the nature of that scheme. And Sutherland was a good rebounder as well. So you take him out of the equation, and you're losing something in all areas on the court. Carter Williams, I think he's already a tremendous point guard and probably done more than anybody could have expected before the season. He struggled a little bit with his shooting lately, but on a whole, I think he's got a really big upside. But again, without Sutherland, you lose that option. A guy as versatile as he is, it doesn't seem to have hurt him as much as we thought it was going to. The whole thing with his academic situation, a tutor writing half his paper supposedly, yeah, like that doesn't happen everywhere else. I mean, come on.
I know.
You know, I don't know how he got caught or how they got caught supposedly in this for this to happen, but it's certainly not an isolated thing to Syracuse University. This happens all over the place.
Sure.
And as long as you're good at covering it up, you don't get in trouble.
Right.
Bottom line.
Speaking of Michael Carter Williams, the Post-Standard newspaper business, which you're associated with, your paper, they ranked the 10 lowlights of sports at Syracuse recently, and one of the lowlights was the Michael Carter Williams Lord and Taylor combination, where I had seen video, as you have seen, I'm sure. It was on YouTube, showing Michael Carter Williams at Lord and Taylor going in with a backpack on and with a pair of gloves and a bathrobe going into the dressing room. And as he came out of the dressing room, he didn't have the gloves and the bathrobe in his hand. He had the backpack on. Video showed the room, which I saw, and it had no bathrobe and no robe, no bathrobe and no gloves. According to the so-called people in the know at Syracuse, the Lord and Taylor management handcuffed him or stopped him, brought him into a separate room, indicated that they saw him heisting these items out. And according to reports out of Syracuse, Lord and Taylor has a policy, which kind of to me is unique because I see in the paper, your paper, every night Geneva Wegmans seems to get, not Geneva Wegmans, Geneva Walmart, every night, $3 items, $4 items, and they bring the cops and they get arrested. Good for them. I guess my point is, you know, Boeheim, of course, has got a legendary career. When asked about the Michael Carter Williams alleged robbery of Lord and Taylor, he said, quote unquote, "All I know is what you're telling me. I never got a call from Lord and Taylor." Now, Alan, I won't ask Jimmy this because he's a graduate of SU. If it was me and you and we're the head coach and there were these videos out showing what transpired at Lord and Taylor a couple miles from campus, would not you or me, and I think I would have, picked up the phone and called Lord and Taylor and said, "Hey, I'm Jim Boeheim. I'm the head coach. You know who I am?" Yeah. Now, there's all these rumors about a player that I have, a starter. Could you verify that something happened there? He didn't do that. Jim didn't call Lord and Taylor. He was expecting Lord and Taylor to call him. I guess I am still amazed at that because who would not have called to say, like if you're a basketball coach, you find out your kid might have stole a piece of pizza from one of the pizzerias in Geneva. Yeah. Wouldn't you call him and say, "Hey, is there any truth to this?" And the guy would say, yeah, he got nailed. He paid $500 on his credit card, and we let him go. We didn't call the cops. Am I missing something here? Was that something that Jim should have done? And as if he did do it, wouldn't there have been a suspension involved? I guess that's where I'm lost in this whole file. Or do you just take the attitude, well, they didn't call me, so everything's fine. And he's a good kid. Let's keep playing.
Well, I don't know enough about I've heard about the incident you referred to. I don't know enough about it from reading all, because I just don't spend a lot of time reading all the blogs in Syracuse.
It's pretty interesting
I don't know. Is it his responsibility? He's paid to coach the basketball team. He's not paid to babysit his players.
True.
If there's no arrest resulting out of this, then what action are you supposed to take? Now, 20, 30 years ago?
Right.
Yeah, he might have sat him for a game or two and said, "Listen, nowadays, I'm not so sure. It's just everything has gotten so complicated with eligibility issues, with standards of conduct that are involved at universities, even high schools now. I don't know that that's his responsibility to call Lord and Taylor and say, "Did this really happen?"
Yeah, interesting.
Why was my player not arrested?"
Yeah.
You know, I just can't see Jim Boeheim or any other coach.
Interesting slant.
At a Division I school, picking up the telephone to call a business and say, "Did this theft occur? Was it my player?"
Yeah.
No, I don't see it. Now, if he'd been arrested, then you've got a different story.
Sure.
And should Carter Williams? I mean, is this Lord? Here's the bigger thing about this: would Lord and Taylor, if it was you or me in his shoes trying to do that, would we have been given the same consideration? Probably not.
Yeah, right.
So that's to me is the root of the situation.
Two different worlds.
He got let off in a situation that the average citizen would have been apprehended.
Right.
And that's not right.
No, that's not right. Should be the same. It's never been that way, though. Well, okay, we're going to switch now, folks. If you're enjoying our show this morning, this is the Dog, H. Weber, with another edition of Weber on Sports. It's January 28th. Alan Brignall, longtime buddy of mine, the longtime sports reporter / sports director of the Finger Lakes Times, now the news editor up there at the Finger Lakes Times. We were hoping to get his buddy Mike Attila to come in. Mike is trying to produce the paper today, and he's probably doing a yeoman job getting ready for that. And we hope to get him into our studios live or by tape sometime down the road, because it's good to get his slants in the world of sports. Well, Alan, you, of course, work in the Geneva area, and it's good to say that every so often in the Finger Lakes region we always have a juggernaut basketball team, and happens to represent Geneva High. Brian Miller, who was on this show last week, has got quite the ball club led by Shane Sweeney, all conference, all state, both in football and basketball. Your take on the Geneva boys basketball team. I know my granddaughter, I see you at some of the games. My granddaughter Izzy's a freshman at Geneva. She's a cheerleader for the varsity, so myself and Mary get up there to see them quite a bit. Outstanding ball club. Your thoughts on Geneva basketball? They're really on a roll.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to see them once this year, obviously not being sports editor anymore.
Sure.
I'm still involved in sports at the Times, but not to the degree I used to be, and as a result, I don't see as many games.
Right.
But the one game I did see, very, very unselfish team.
Yep.
Very athletic team that can play Brian's full court press, the high pressure scheme, very well. The game I saw opened my eyes, because it's not that Geneva teams have been characterized as being selfish or me first type of basketball players in the past, because I've seen enough. They've had some really good teams with a lot of unselfish players, but there's something about this team. There just doesn't seem to be any of that type of ego on the team. Nobody, from the game I saw, nobody has any problem passing it off for a better shot. That's which to me has always been one of the big keys to being a successful basketball team. You need guys to be able to step up and score 20, 25 a night once in a while, and Geneva's blessed to have probably 4 or 5 players who are capable of doing that if they need it. But that versatility and that unselfishness, to me, bodes well when we get to the postseason. They're in Class A, very difficult class traditionally. I think Aquinas is one of the better teams in that class. But Geneva certainly is as good as anybody in Class A in Section 5. And we get to the state level, that type of approach, it makes it harder for opposing teams to defend you when you've got that many options and you're that unselfish.
So it's going to be interesting. Well, he's got a... And, if you ever go to watch a high school basketball game, I certainly encourage you to go visit your Pelmax or your Marcus Whitman's, Penn Yan. I saw something, like I said, I'm not sure this was Alan. I saw something that him and me can relate to. Weeks ago, I was going through the sports section of the Finger Lakes Times, and a headline just caught my good eye. And I couldn't help but notice that Penn Yan beat Newark in basketball by 18. And as Alan and me remember, that never would have happened 15, 20 years ago. It was never heard of. Newark was just a juggernaut. And with all due respect to Penn Yan, if anyone's watching us today from Penn Yan, I don't mean this as a slam, but they never have caught my attention as a basketball power. Newark, on the other hand, won year in and year out and would cakewalk against schools like Penn Yan in basketball. So Penn Yan beating Newark by 18 just kind of surprised me. So that was kind of nice to see that, their program is on the ups. And Newark, of course, is nothing to dismiss either. They still got a pretty good program as well. I just got spoiled, and so did you, Alan, of the years after year after year. Newark was just it. They had the Catholic schools going up there, just phenomenal program.
Yeah, Penn Yan had I think it was 99 when they went to the state Final
Exactly.
Four. That was the mark. I mean, they had a stretch there where they had some good seasons, and they've been a relatively solid program for years now. But I didn't go back and look it up, but I don't think they had – I'm not sure that they had beaten Newark since that 98-99 season.
Oh, it's got to be a long time. Hey, by the way, we're going to get back talking Alan Brignall, our special guest here on Weber on Sports. Hope you're having a good Monday morning. And, again, if you're freaking out about the weather, relax. It's supposed to turn to rain in a little bit. And it's supposed to be getting into the high 30s today and tomorrow. 53, they're saying. But don't worry. Come weekend, they're talking down to the 20s and 19 or 18 on Super Bowl Sunday. But no major storms from what I'm seeing so far. By the way, the Lions basketball team, our buddy Zach Young, who's been on this show, on Jimmy's Upstate Hoops many times. He's done an outstanding job. I know Zach's dad. I spent a lot of time with him at LaBelle's for years and years. I'm going way back now. This is kind of neat. The Lions basketball team will be traveling to play Wellsville in a non-league contest at Quicken Loans Arena, home of the NBA Cleveland Cavaliers. As you can tell, I'm reading the story out of Alan's paper. On February the 8th, tip-off is 3:45 in the afternoon. Immediately following the game, both teams and their fans will stay to watch the Cavaliers take on the Denver Nuggets at 7:30. Again, that's February the 9th. The Lions bus will depart immediately following that NBA game. The bus will leave Lions High School at 6:30 a.m. and return approximately 2:30 a.m. on Sunday morning. The cost is $70 a person. I'm assuming there's still availabilities on the bus. If interested, contact a good friend of mine, Steve Vito. I've not seen Steve in a long time. Steve can be contacted at 946-2250 or sveeder@lionscsd.org. Or you can email head coach, a good friend of our network here, FingerLakes1.com, Zach Young, at zyoung@lionscsd.org by February the 2nd. That's a pretty nice experience, Ellen. High school kids getting a chance to play in a big arena.
Yeah, it is. And I saw Zach before Christmas at a game, and he was telling me a little bit about how that transpired. They were supposed to play Wellsville. I almost want to say it was this past Saturday. There was some kind of tournament going on at East High School, and I think Wellsville had a problem with the date. And I'm not sure how they ended up going to Cleveland for the. It's not the first time a team from around here has gone either. I want to say when Jeff Panic, who we know well, I believe when he coached Mid-Lakes a few years ago, they played a game when it was Gund Arena back then.
Okay.
But it sounds like they have some opportunities for high school teams from outside the Cleveland area to come in, play, stay, and enjoy an NBA game. And
it's nice.
Yeah, it's a really nice opportunity for them.
By the way, we don't want to leave our network and our show this morning without talking about a dubious distinction in the world of sports that happened a few days ago. I'm sure Ellen's aware of it, and I know Jimmy is. Northern Illinois now will go down in college basketball history as the only team in the world in the history of NCAA Division I basketball to have scored 4 points and a half. They played Eastern Michigan the other day. They lost the game to Eastern Michigan 43-25. In the first half, they scored 4. Never having been done before in the world of Division I college basketball with a shot clock, Allen. It's amazing. And a three-pointer. 4 points at half.
That's bad.
How would you like to have been in that locker room at halftime?
That's bad. I mean, if there's enough games on TV now.
Oh, wow.
You can see some really bad basketball just as easy as you can see some good stuff.
There is. Hey, while we're sending out kudos this morning, let's talk about Hobart hockey. They have had an outstanding run, and they are just playing superb. They swept Elmira over the weekend, and Tommaso Traversa highlighted the entire weekend with a total of 3 goals for the Statesmen, who are 16-2-2. They're 8-1-1. Outstanding continuation of great hockey program at Hobart. We're going to try to get the coach on here on the show, but it's nice to see that program just continuing to purr right along.
And Mark's a busy man. Good luck getting him.
I know. I hear he's very busy.
They've been so good now for so many years that we've almost gotten to the point where you take them being successful for granted, but what they're doing this year, they're raising the bar to a level they haven't quite been at. I mean, it's a conference that has good teams in it. And Nazareth was added this year. They're a new program, so they've taken some lumps. But when you consider Manhattanville and Utica and the types of programs they are in Newman, all these programs are regular contenders for tournament appearances and tournament in NCAA Division III championships. This is just an outstanding team. They've got a veteran goaltender, talent all over the ice, depth on their lines. The way they're going now, they're going to be hosting the conference tournament throughout the conference tournament and probably playing in the NCAA Division III tournament. Unless they really stumble down the stretch, I'd say they're almost guaranteed to be in the D3 tournament at this point. No, just a tremendous job.
Hobart just keeps on and impressing you, and of course we don't even not talking about this morning. William Smith have done an outstanding job at athletics too. We all know about their football prowess. They had an outstanding last few years playing great football, and that continues.
Yeah, Hobart and William Smith, their athletic programs in general are at a level now where if they don't win, you're surprised.
Yeah,
that says a lot about the quality of athletics at the colleges.
I mentioned a hangout that maybe you frequented once in a while when you're in Geneva. Ronnie Cedar Inn and Dewey's. I talked about Notre Dame, Alabama, a game that I was anticipating to watch and
enjoy.
I don't know if they played taps 8 minutes into the game at both of these Irish bars. I guess I made the comment on this show that it probably set back Notre Dame football tradition 40 years or 50 years because I've never in my life, I shouldn't say never, that's a big word to use. I can't recall Ellen having a game where 8 minutes into the game I was channel surfing. I was looking for something else. It was such an embarrassment to have such hype. And I know Alabama's a strong program, don't get me wrong. And I know Notre Dame was lucky, let's be honest. They should never have beaten Pitt at Notre Dame.
I was there, by the way.
Okay, you were there.
I was at that game.
They had a nice homer call there, 4th and goal. 4th for a minute, the flag went flying.
No, they were they should not have won that game.
I mean, no question. I mean, I just was so embarrassed for the Irish that it was just humiliating to watch how so dominant Alabama was against the Irish. I think if Saban wanted to pour it on, he could have won by 50. It just seemed like a mismatch from the word go.
And it's hard to fathom the game playing out like it did.
Amazing.
Notre Dame, say what you want.
Yep.
They beat Oklahoma at their place fairly handily.
Right.
But, it looked like Alabama looked like an NFL team.
They did.
And Notre Dame looked like a high school team.
Exactly.
There was that much of a difference on that night. And I saw nothing from watching the game that convinced me that Notre Dame could beat Alabama ever. It's just amazing. It's just hard to believe.
It's hard to believe. And, the odds makers, we pick on Las Vegas because those are the barometer of what sports means in the world, unfortunately. There's a line on everything. We'll talk about San Fran and Baltimore in a few minutes. But the line opens at 12, and I was telling Jimmy, I was coming to do a show, and I said, that line opened at 12 points. The number one team in the country is getting 12. Now, those Vegas people don't build those billion-dollar casinos on winners. They build them on losers. The next morning, it went to 9. Mm-hmm. 1 day later, it went dropped 3 points, which is unheard of on a line. So it must have been a lot of Notre Dame money coming on a day later. It went. I don't think in all the years I've followed sports betting on the internet and your newspaper and others, to drop 3 points was remarkable. I thought, wow, the Notre Dame fans are pouring in the money because that's how it works. The more money on one team, the line goes up or down. And it settled at 9. Then it went to 9.5. And the day of the game, January the 7th, it went to 10. It jumped a half a point in favor of Alabama. And I said to my wife, who doesn't follow stuff like this, and I said, honey, a lot of Alabama money is coming on late to bring that line another half a point up. Little did we know that those big bettors knew what they were talking about because that line very seldomly jumps up the day of the game. And it was never a game. I mean, I was embarrassed. I was laying in bed. I was in a separate bedroom that we have in our apartment, which is the man cave for me anyways. I turn on 48 sports channels and have 2 TV sets and a radio in there, and I can basically have the internet going. I have everything going at my fingertips to check out many different sporting events, and I was all psyched up. I had my Pepsi, I had my little snacks. And 8 minutes in the game, I said, this is so embarrassing. I can't watch it. Because you know what, Ellen? You never knew it was going to turn around. It was no change in pattern there. They were just going to pound them in the ground, and they basically just destroyed the Irish.
They did. And
destroyed them.
The funny thing is it was 21-0 late in the second quarter, and it felt like it was 61-0.
I know. It was.
And I'm thinking if they could have kept them off the board on that last drive before the half, well, maybe something interesting will happen in the second half, even though the game felt like it was over. It was just strange to see a national championship game be that one-sided.
It was. All right, a couple more comments, and then we're going to wrap this baby up. It's approaching 10 after 10 on a Monday morning. Hope you're enjoying the show. We got Alan Brignall's been with us from the start, talking about a bevy of topics. Speaking of Notre Dame, I got to get you a quick capsule on Manti Te'o. What's your gut feeling on that scenario? Is that like a soap opera?
I don't have a gut feeling. I
can't figure it out, right?
I don't know what to believe.
Yeah, I know.
Everything you read and you hear, and then something new pops up, makes it even
more bizarre.
More bizarre and more difficult to understand exactly what happened. Other than, ultimately, he's red in the face for falling for whatever this was.
Yeah.
I'd like to say I know more about it than the average person, but I really don't, and everything I read gets me more confused.
I know. Well, listen, let's talk about a couple of broadcasts here on FingerLakes1.com. Then we'll get Alan's view on the Super Bowl coming up Sunday. Our webcast or podcast, whatever you call them, live at these various high school gymnasiums. Jim's got, as you can tell by the equipment we have in the studio here, invested heavily the last few years to increase the cameras. And got a new computer, got a great broadcast team. Unfortunately, I've not been a factor in broadcasting the games. I missed that because this throughway gig has got me weird hours, and I haven't behind the headset this year at all. You never know, though. I might surprise you someday, but I do miss that once in a while because I've done it for so many years. But I know we got a great team in Brendan Harrington, David Barnick. We got Kevin Korzenowski, of course, the legendary basketball player personified Matt Verke, Jeremy Hunt, and, of course, Jimmy produces the broadcast. But a couple games scheduled for this week. Tomorrow evening, Geneva will be at Waterloo. On paper, it's going to be a mismatch, and I guess it's not only on paper, it's going to probably happen. So to all you Waterloo folks checking me out this morning, don't take this the wrong way. You guys have had outstanding programs over the years. This is not a great team in Waterloo, and you all know that. You guys are rebuilding, so hang in there. And Geneva comes in with a powerhouse, and it could be a tough game for the Indians of Waterloo. Geneva will be loaded, and Waterloo certainly is trying to get their teams rebounding and rebuilding for better days to come forward, which will happen because we all know they have a rich tradition in basketball. And a good one coming up this Saturday, February 2nd. Lions will be traveling to take on Newark. Lions having a great program, great year as usual under the guidance of Zach Young. He'll be traveling to take on the Newark Reds. That's always going to be a good game, especially when they go to Newark. So check that out. By the way, Brendan Harrington, again, Kevin Korzenowski, Matt Verke, Jeremy Hunt, Jim Senecropi will be involved in those broadcasts. Check out, and we got a couple games after that. And then, of course, that'll wrap up our high school basketball coverage. And before you ask Jim or myself, if you see us on the street, sectional coverage, it's a difficult situation with FingerLakes1.com. As Alan can appreciate this, all the years I was with him at the War Memorial, the Blue Cross Arena, relative to getting rights to go in there to do it. Unfortunately, as a radio broadcaster, you can get up in the top in broadcast games for a meager charge. Way back when, I can tell you, it was like $25 a game back in the George Sewin days of owning WSFW. I don't know what the cost is today to get up there to broadcast, but unfortunately, with Jim's situation here being a quote-unquote video/audio, as Alan can appreciate, that's exclusivity rights for Time Warner. Therefore, we're not allowed in, or if Jim wants to roll out $5,000, they'll let you come in and do video on our FingerLakes1.com. So obviously, that's not going to be cost effective. So you know, it isn't like we don't want to do sectional games. We don't want to go to the big house, as Alan and me spent many a night there doing double and triple headers. But the point is, they have made it ridiculous in trying to protect, and I understand why, but it would seem that they could come up with a more reasonable figure. Our video that Jim shoots, setting up all the cameras and stuff, isn't going to run Time Warner out of business. So it's just the way, as you know, Alan, the way this media stuff works. Unfortunate, but so if anyone wonders why we're not going to be doing those, that's the reason. The cost is just so prohibitive, you couldn't even consider doing it. You'd have to go out and get 600 sponsors to pay for the rights to go in there and hook up the equipment. Okay, enough about that. Let's end our show by talking about Super Bowl 47. And by the way, next year, folks, if you're not keeping up on all this stuff, next year they go to MetLife Stadium, baby. It's outdoors next year. Should be a lot of laughs, baby. Can't wait for that one. But this year, the Ravens, Ray Rice, is it going to be dramatic? Is he going to be given his stretches and his Superman outfit? And is he going to do a screaming and yelling? Are we going to look at that at the post game this year? I got to be honest with you. I thought I followed sports pretty closely. 8 weeks ago, you never would have told me if you were me or at a bar having a beer, Alan, and said, who is Colin Kaepernick? I never would have had, but I would never have been able to answer that. I didn't know if he was a hockey player, a soccer player, or a football player. And this is a true story. I had never heard of him before. Harbaugh benches a $13 million a year quarterback in Alex Smith for some reason, just benches him. I mean, I can't feel sorry for Alex Smith. He's making $13 million. But this Colin Kaepernick, honest to God, Alan, I thought I followed sports closely, as you know. I never heard of this kid before. Out of Nevada, I think.
Yeah, well, he played for Nevada.
Unbelievable.
How many Nevada games have you seen on TV?
Hardly any. I never heard of this kid.
Other than bowl games. Everybody makes a bowl.
Yeah.
But no, I'd
never heard of him.
I'd heard of Kaepernick, but
Amazing.
I didn't really know a lot about him, obviously.
Amazing.
And like everybody else, when Harbaugh pulled the trigger to make the switch,
I know.
you're scratching your
Who's
head.
that guy?
But he's the coach of the team. He should know the personnel.
Amazing.
And it's obvious it was more than just a gut feeling, although that probably played into it a little bit.
Amazing.
The guy.
NFL record.
Yeah.
Most yards rushing and passing. 185 yards rushing, 175 yards passing. Never been done before.
And what I've seen from him so far, unlike some of the other guys who are mobile quarterbacks, RG3, for example,
right.
he seems to manage to avoid taking the big hit that would knock you out of the game.
Yeah.
Now, the more you run, the more likely it is you're going to get hit, especially against a defense like the Ravens.
Sure.
But, yeah, it's quite a story.
It is amazing.
The stat I saw, only Hostetler and Ferragamo are the only quarterbacks to start a Super Bowl with fewer starts than he has.
It's amazing.
It is an amazing story.
Well, Brian Miller picked the Ravens. Jim Senecrovi picked Ravens. I picked San Fran. The line is 3.5. Who do you like?
I like the 49ers.
Like the 49ers.
I don't. The Ravens defense has that ability, even though a lot of them are getting older, they still have that ability to make offenses look bad.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think they can beat San Francisco unless we forget, if the Broncos don't completely fall asleep in the last half minute, Baltimore's not playing this Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
It took an incredibly boneheaded play by Denver for Baltimore to even be here.
Oh, that pass on the end.
So,
can you believe that one?
No, that's one of the.
That reminded me of playing Pee Wee football.
That's one of the all-time boners that I can remember.
The guy was wide open. Yeah. How do you catch the ball? How do you let him get that ball? I mean, it's amazing. I
don't know how it happens, but it happened, and the Ravens are here
Yep.
as a result. It didn't surprise me they beat New England. I just felt like they were going to get over that hump this year. But the 49ers are a different monster. They're an incredible defensive team in their own right, and Kaepernick's made that offense almost unstoppable.
Mm-hmm. Well, as usual, Alan, it's always great to have you come in. We appreciate you taking time out of a busy schedule to come and join us.
Thanks for having me in, Harold. It's a pleasure as always.
We'd love to have you down, and we're going to get you and Mike down here if we have to do it at midnight some night. We'll have to tape it or something, but we're going to get you and your partner Mike down here. So,
and thanks to Jimmy, too.
Oh, yeah, Jimmy's great. All right, folks. Well, you never know who we're going to have on next Monday. We're going to try to get the good old Mark there, the head coach of Hobart. We're going to try to get him. If we can't get him, we're going to try to get Verke. He'll come in for some comments. Our man Rod, we never know about him. So not to worry. We'll let you know who our guest will be next week. And if not, you'll just be stuck with boring dogs. So, as usual, thanks for joining us. And not to fret about the weather. It's supposed to get a little rainy this afternoon, so you enjoy yourself. And have a great, great, great super week now. Enjoy it, and hope your numbers come in on those boards, too, even though it's supposed to be illegal. Take care, everybody. That's a look at sports my way.